How do you balance the level of detail in a product backlog? I chuckle because it depends is the honest answer. Right, a product backlog is a list of everything that the product owner, the stakeholders, anybody involved in this product, anything that they can think of that may be worthwhile adding to the backlog, to the product, and curated by the product owner, so of course they're going to be removing things so it doesn't get too big. Now, people do look for a single answer, right? Okay, if it's on the backlog, what's the level? And the answer is, well, where in the backlog does it appear? Things that are potentially months away, and as such have a higher risk of not being built, actually the detail might only be a word or two. It's just a vague idea, it's a placeholder, so that when the team pick it up, somebody knows enough to talk about it. So that's it, a couple of words. Sufficient that whoever wrote it originally can bring to mind the key points, and as a team they can discuss it. As you move up the backlog, you're going to get more and more information. There's going to be more detail added to each of these items. And that is simply because from that initial placeholder, the team have taken it, talked about it, worked it, broken it down, understood things, learnt new things, maybe researched stuff. Okay, they're playing with it, they're exploring the space of what's the need, what are we trying to do here? Okay? And in doing that, they will learn more, and they're going to capture those conversations. So as an item moves up the backlog, it's going to, by its very nature, get more and more detail, until such a point that the team collectively go, you know what, that's ready. We're confident that if we took that into a sprint, we can get it done. They're not meaning it's fully analysed and designed out and every question is answered. What they mean is they have the confidence that by the end of the sprint, they could get it to not only that space, but into a final state of finished, done. Okay? Ideally ready for the customer to pick up and use. And they're comfortable that they're there. So where it lands is going to depend almost entirely on your team and where it is in that product backlog. Newer teams are going to want more detail. They're learning how to play around in this space. How do we get work done? Very often in organisations that are also learning how to work in this way. So their idea of ready is going to require more work. It's going to have a higher level of detail than an organisation that's been doing it for a decade or more, and a team that really gets it and has run well with it. They may have a very loose idea of what ready means, very low definition compared to other organisations, and that's fine for them. You can't expect one team to pick up another team's place. And throughout refinement, this is the ongoing conversation. As a Scrum Master, you're there to help them understand where they are, not tell them. Okay? And you may come across this concept of a definition of ready, this idea that as a team we can write down it is ready when it's in this state. And to be fair, there's not a lot wrong with that. It's a tool. But as with many tools, it can be used well and it can be used poorly. I lean away from it. It's not that I don't use it. Occasionally it has its place, but I do lean away from it because I've seen particularly newer teams struggle with this idea that it isn't a contract, that it isn't something to stop work coming in. It's something to give them, as a whole team, transparency around what they mean by ready. So if it's there, great. Your team is clear what the standard ready state is going to be. We need to have thought about this, done this, answered these questions, whatever it is. But sometimes a product owner needs to push up the priority up towards the top of that backlog, something that isn't considered ready. And it's in those cases where, as a Scrum Master, you need to keep an ear out. Are the team pushing back because it doesn't meet their definition of ready? Or are they pushing back because they don't have sufficient information? Okay? And they are different things. As a Scrum Master, we're not going to make a final decision. What we need to do is navigate that conversation between product owner and developers to understand, is what's being asked possible? And if it is, even if it's hard work, as a product owner, are you willing to take the knock on all the other work that is inherent in taking something that's not ready yet. Are you going to be willing to deliver less to get what's more important? Okay. And this is it. So you can't turn around and say, this batch needs to be at this standard, and this batch needs to be at this standard, and this batch needs to be at this standard. The very emergent nature, the evolutionary idea behind a backlog is things are shifting and changing all the time. Okay? Those which we talk about, we have more information on, we have better detail on, and that's good. And hopefully that's the majority of your work. But occasionally things are going to rise from the depths of your backlog way faster than you thought. In fact, it can happen overnight, or just walking into a meeting. It's happened to me, right? And something that's not been discussed well enough needs to go into the next sprint. It becomes the most important thing. So the team needs to be comfortable with the majority of the time. We've explored it, we've played around with it in product backlog refinement, but sometimes, you know what? We don't have time to do that. And we need to spend time in the upcoming sprint getting it to that ready space so that we can meet that need, solve the problem, build the feature, whatever it is. So that's a longer answer to, what's the level of detail you need? The honest answer is always going to be, it depends. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.